Hey everyone, welcome to the Healthy Brain Podcast. It's been a bit since I've had a podcast, but I'm back. Here I am. So, today we're going to talk about regulating how to regulate your nervous system. Now, I've noticed there's a lot uh, out there in social media world, just information about regulating your nervous system, calming your nervous system, down regulating your nervous system. You've probably heard it: fight, flight, freeze, primitive brain. Everybody's sort of throwing it around, which is great that there's this awareness of the nervous system and down regulating and regulating. But I think people, if you're not in the neuroscience realm, which a lot of people are not, you may not know exactly what it is. Like, what is the nervous system and what am I regulating? It's not just regulating how you're feeling about something or regulating a temperature, which is sort of like a temperature gauge. But so today, what I want to do is briefly do a quick review of the key parts of the nervous system that we'll be focusing on that really relate to this downregulation of the nervous system and why it's important, why we should regulate our nervous system or know how to regulate and make a practice. And what I'll do is give you ideas to create your own practice on how to regulate your nervous system. So it will all make sense as I go through this. So we'll start with a quick review. There's the central nervous system, which is the brain and the spinal cord, and there's the peripheral nervous system, and that includes the autonomic nervous system and the somatic nervous system. We're going to be focusing in on this autonomic nervous system because it's divided into the sympathetic nervous system, the parasympathetic nervous system, and then there's also this enteric or gut system. Now, we're not going to really focus on that enteric gut system. We're going to just be focusing on this parasympathetic and sympathetic, but if you notice, like enteric gut, that's why there's certain nervous system neurochemical things happening when we have gut issues. And that's why there's so much emphasis on the microbiome, keeping your gut healthy, because it does affect our nervous system directly through the gut. But that's a whole other topic for a deep dive. Today, focusing on the parasympathetic nervous system and the sympathetic. So the sympathetic nervous system, it what happens is when it's activated, our heart rate increases, our respiratory rate increases, our blood pressure increases. We become really this highly alert. The parasympathetic is, just think of the opposite. It slows our heartbeat, decreases our blood pressure and our respiratory rate. So you may have heard rest and digest, that's a parasympathetic nervous system. And the fight, flight, freeze, the on nervous system is the sympathetic. And when we're in chronic stress or even acute stress, the sympathetic nervous system is activated. It is a very important system. We need to have this activation. But the problem is when it's not just acute stress. So acute stress is well, they've used this, you're running from a tiger. Nobody's running from a tiger lately, but you just get the news that you are late in submitting a project or someone hasn't received something that they expected, and it causes that, oh no, this stress response, or something's happened with one of your kids. That's an acute stress response. You want to be able to go into gear, into high gear, and enable to solve this problem. Chronic stress is when we're always on. We're not allowing our nervous system to go shift into that parasympathetic nervous system state. So We want the both of them. It's almost like you want to look at regulating your nervous system is being able to go back and forth between the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. You want to be flexible. And I've talked about this in some other episodes where you want to have a flexible nervous system. You want to be able to rest and relax. And you also want to have an engaged, alert nervous system when needed. Prolonged chronic stress has been linked to chronic diseases such as heart disease, diabetes, high blood pressure, insomnia, anxiety, depression, cancer. There's so many links to prolonged stress. That's why we want to regulate the nervous system. So I know as I started the episode, I was talking about how people have been throwing around regulating your nervous system. The reason we want to regulate it, it's really because of the stress response, that chronic stress response that can will lead to chronic diseases. And that is the whole point of regulating your nervous system. Yeah, you want to feel better because when you regulate your nervous system, you'll feel better. You'll feel calmer. You'll feel healthier, more uh, energetic. You won't feel so depleted. So, some of the signs of dysregulation or an imbalance of the nervous system. So, there is an imbalance. For people who are in chronic stress or who have had really a lot of acute stress that they just can't seem to regulate the nervous system. Some signs are you have fatigue, brain fog, difficulty remembering, difficulty focusing, difficulty sleeping, feeling wired and tired, feeling depleted. So you can feel it can be sort of the extremes where you're just sort of on. And recently, I noticed that. What I knew what was happening is I was having these long work days, which I love working, so that's great. But I would have time to work out in the morning, but what I wasn't doing is a regular yoga practice. I had my meditation going, fitting that in, but a regular yoga practice for me is around 3 to 4 times at least a week. And I wasn't even doing that. And I noticed that my nervous system just seemed to be in this chronic alert state. But then I would get so depleted. I would feel so tired and exhausted. Since I've been back to doing more of a regular yoga practice, in addition to my working out with strength training, walking, those and cardio, because that's all important. All of those types of exercise, they're important for our body and brain, but that helps me to regulate my nervous system. So I'll be talking about some different techniques that you can use to help you regulate your nervous system. Everybody is different. And the approach for regulating your nervous system is going to be different than someone else. It will be different than what works for me. But the key is to start developing a thing called an interoceptive practice or interoception. And what that means is you have a sense of the body's internal state. You pause, you think, you feel, okay, what's going on? How am I feeling? Am I feeling depleted? Am I feeling wired? We don't even stop in our day to just see, how am I feeling? How is my body feeling? Am I feeling really stressed? Am I feeling scattered? Or am I feeling calm and regulated and focused? It starts with that. We have to have that awareness, and that's where mindfulness comes in. You've heard about mindfulness. Well, it's that interoception. It's like knowing your internal state. Some ways now to regulate your nervous system, and we'll go through them. And I want you to just jot them down and then pick one or two to do this week. See how your body responds. So one is, as I mentioned, yoga. There's many different forms of yoga. There's more of the Ashtanga, which is more of the power athletic yoga. In some circles, they call it that. But what that may be something, if you're feeling really lethargic, having that practice may be helpful. But the other types of yoga, yin yoga, restorative yoga, yoga nidra, those in sitting in a stretch that's supportive and breathing and feeling your body and feeling the tightness initially and how the tightness actually releases as you breathe. That is interoception. That's like, okay, I'm feeling how my body is right when I get into a pose, and then I'm in this pose for a while, like in it with support, with pillows, with blocks, with whatever. And in my brain health program that I offer, my digital program, and I have a kickoff for a 2 month, or it's 8 weeks, build a stronger brain. On that platform, there's on-demand yoga classes. So it makes it really easy. We're focusing on our brain health. I'll be talking a bit more about it in an upcoming episode, but we're starting June and July. So if you want more information, check out the link in the show notes. Then you can sign up for it if you want to join us for June and July, 8 weeks, build a stronger brain. That we're going to be really focused on that. But this is part of it, is regulating our nervous system. So you have the techniques can be yoga. Another technique is breath work. Breath work practices, not the hyperventilation, but more of a lengthening exhale. Sometimes box breathing. I know that's also something that's popular. Sometimes that can be activating for people, and others that can be calming. So again, this is just by saying breath work. There's different cadences, the inhale, holding the breath, exhale, for it just depends on the different timing. What we do know is that with research, the intentional sigh, or the physiological sigh, an inhale through the nose and then another sniff inhale, and the exhale through the mouth, longer exhale. That seems to downregulate the nervous system. Downregulating meaning activating the parasympathetic nervous system. So when you a go-to that I'll give to my clients and my patients, because I see a lot of cognitive rehab patients, and when they are in a stress response and they feel overwhelmed, I teach them how to do this intentional sigh. It's a quick breath work practice, but it can be really impactful to activating that parasympathetic nervous system, because the vagus nerve, which is innervated in the pharynx and also the diaphragm along in the torso, is activated. When that vagus nerve is activated, that's what kicks in the parasympathetic nervous system, and then we relax. The respiration rate decreases, our heart rate decreases, our blood pressure decreases. 5 of these intentional sigh, exhale cycles can be just what is needed for you. Now, there's other breath work practices that can be more stimulating, that maybe if people are feeling like really lethargic, they may need to do humming, chanting, bee breath, Brahmari, um, Kapalbhati, just depending on your state. So that's what I mean, is sometimes it's like you try different, and on my platform, I do have the different types of breath work that people can practice and see what helps them. It's almost like you want a toolbox full of things for your nervous system regulation. Other things that can be really helpful for regulating your nervous system is moving your body, not just in yoga, but it could be dancing rocking or twisting, qigong, sometimes even the vibration plates. Those are they possibly could help the nervous system, but again, it could be if you're already wired and you're feeling like a little on or quite on, that vibration plate may not be helpful for you. So again, you may want to see where you're at if you're depleted or you're highly activated. Other activities, walking in nature, being even just being out in nature, gardening, sitting, enjoying. Now it's a springtime where I am. It's beautiful having that exposure to nature is very helpful for the nervous system. Meditation is it's an attentional focus practice as well, meditation, but it's great for that interoception to sitting and realizing how you're feeling at a particular time. So meditation can be in, I would suggest for it to be in everybody's toolbox. And there's to know that there's different types of meditation. One that's been around for a long time, but does take a long time to do. It's supposed to be twice a day transcendental meditation, twice a day for 20 minutes. That's a long time. I'm sorry, that's just a long time. And if people have that amount of time, fantastic. But the research shows that 13 minutes of meditation a day, even smaller amounts, but more recent research, 13 minutes of meditation can change the brain. You don't need to do 40 minutes of meditation in a day. Not saying that that won't, of course, that's helpful. That's wonderful. But most of us are so busy, but we do need to do some meditation. I would be happy even if you did 5 minutes, even 2 minutes. You can change your state in 2 minutes of a meditation or a breathwork practice. Just start. You know, that's all you need to do is just start. It doesn't have to be perfect because there's no perfect meditation. I've been practicing for years and I can say that I struggle with the monkey mind, with the thinking of all. I started meditating this morning and I was thinking of my day and getting pulled into thoughts. And then, oh, I notice it and I bring myself back. So just start with the meditation. That's what I would recommend. Some other things to regulate your nervous system is think of tactile touch, like myofascial release, massage, rubbing inside the ears, somatic movements, and some tapping. There's just there's different acupressure points with tapping you can use there. That's a whole thing that you can maybe explore. I do include some of that in my program as well, because especially the myofascial release, I love that for nervous system regulation. Other things to stimulate the parasympathetic nervous system, or to think of it this way, instead of stimulating it, to think of how to create that flexibility is the cold, hot exposure. And of course, be careful when you're doing any of these that you have the clearance from the doctor. Extreme cold, extreme hot is not for everybody. I'm not a cold exposure person. I don't like it, even though I grew up in Canada. I don't mind the hot. I like the infrared. I really like infrared sauna, but trying some of those subtle on off hot cold exposure, you can check in on that. Maybe that would be helpful. And the last thing in a regulating your nervous system is look at the mindset practices. So gratitude can really help in regulating your nervous system, creating a feeling of abundance, of self-love, compassion. So journaling can be really helpful in nervous system regulation. Um, Talking with friends, talking with with people who care about you, socially being around people, that is also helpful for the nervous system. So when we're approaching this nervous system regulation, and think of it like, can I create a flexible nervous system? You want to look at what you're doing for your body, what you're doing for your brain and your mindset. And you can see that there's quite a few things here that you can do. We may want to do all of them and say, okay, this is it. I'm going to get my stress under control and regulate my nervous system. But what we know with habits and routines and making new habits and changing how we do certain things is what we need to do is just start with one or two practices and just see how your body responds to it. If I can suggest, it's going to be a form of something that's a really great bang for your buck is yoga, because you're getting the breath work, you're getting that breathing, that interoception. And through classes, we interweave breath work where sometimes you'll pause or be in a pose and you'll do a four count inhale, 6 count hold, exhale for 8. You may do those in a yoga class or even just that inhale, exhale. You're also getting the movement, which is really great for nervous system regulation. And you're also getting that mindfulness piece and that meditative movement piece, because when you're going through different poses and shifting to balancing, you have to focus on what you're doing right now. Because if you start thinking of, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that later, you you can't do and be in the pose when you're thinking of something else. So a great bang for your buck is a yoga practice. And you can start with my program, and there's a lot of yoga practices. I'm also going to be going live every week in the 8-week program. We're going to have live yoga classes that I'll be leading, and also I'll be going live once a week for the Q&A coaching, and we call it coffee chat sometimes it's Q&A. It's sharing our wins, it's seeing what people are doing, I'm answering questions, I'm giving a little teaching of coaching. So it is a great all around 8-week program. You'll be learning the lifestyle habits and choices that will create a stronger brain through nutrition, exercise, sleep, challenging the brain, social interaction, a few others. And not only will you learn about the lifestyle habits and changes, but you'll learn how to create consistency and to fit them into your busy lifestyle. Because I think a lot of people know what they should be doing for a healthy brain, healthy body, but we don't do it because we're so like, there's just so many things. I know myself, I'll get caught doing all these things and not focusing in. I'm not, and once I use the neuroscience for habits, routines, planning, management of my mind, I'm able to then implement these healthy habits and these healthy lifestyle changes, which is what will help our brain and our body be healthy for years to come. So look for the link in the show notes, and I look forward to seeing you there. And take care, everyone. God bless.